Like, how do you explain that without sounding ungrateful? I never thought that I'd be the kind of person who would say this, but I think I've outgrown a life I worked really hard for. And that sentence alone is complicated because this life did not come easy. There was effort, sacrifice, long nights, doing what I was supposed to do. So when you realize you've outgrown something like that, it brings up a lot of mixed emotions. Gratitude, guilt, pride, confusion, and sometimes just all at once. This video isn't about complaining, okay? It's not about complaining. It's about something that a lot of people feel but don't say out loud. So, if you're new here, hi, I'm a working mom, and lately I've been in a really reflective season. Not impulsive, not reckless, just honest. I'm not here to bash my past decisions. I'm actually really proud of the life I built, but I've learned that being proud of something doesn't always mean that it's meant to last forever. And that's what I want to talk about today. I think when you're younger, we're taught to chase stability, you know, like do the right things, make responsible choices, make sure that you build a life that looks good on paper. And that's what I did. I worked hard. I showed up consistently. I pushed through tired seasons. Um, I sacrificed comfort for security. And for a long time, that made sense. This life, it supported me, you know? It taught me discipline. It helped me grow. But somewhere along the way, it just, it stopped fitting. Not suddenly. It was very quiet. And outgrowing a life really starts with a dramatic moment. It starts with little things, you know? You start feeling more drained than you do fulfilled. You start dreading things that you used to tolerate, you know? You start needing more recovery than before. And it starts with asking yourself questions like, why does this feel heavier now? Why am I so tired even when I rest? Why does this no longer align with who I am? And the hardest part is realizing that nothing is wrong, but something isn't right anymore. Does that make sense? And one of the hardest emotions in this process is guilt. Because, like, you have to admit that you've outgrown a life that actually paid your bills, gave you structure, and really just helped you survive a previous version of yourself. Like, how do you explain that without sounding ungrateful? Like, how? And so, for a long time, I told myself, you know, you should be thankful. Other people would love this. And the biggest thing I would tell myself is, you worked too hard to walk away. And I had to realize that growth doesn't mean disrespecting your past. Growth actually means you're honoring it and being present and honest with where you are in your current reality. And so the truth is, not the same person who built this life, you know? Like, my priorities have shifted. I'm a mom, I'm a wife. Uh, my capacity has changed, you know? And success is different now. My definition of success is not the same as what it was. It's different. And, you know, once I used to feel was ambition, it now feels like pressure. And once I used to feel like it was purpose, you know? And now it just feels like an obligation. And it's heartbreaking, you know? It's heartbreaking to really think and acknowledge that's how I feel. And I have to tell myself that that does not mean I failed. It means that I've evolved. And it's harder said than done. So I'm thinking about why people don't talk about this. You know, we don't talk about outgrowing good lives. We only talk about leaving like the toxic ones or, escaping a bad situation. But sometimes the hardest thing to leave is something that isn't terrible. When it's terrible, you ready to get up out of there. But like, it's hard to leave something that isn't terrible. It's just misaligned. And when you're in that space, one thing I've learned and realized is that people do not always understand that. They want to give you their advice and they want to say, just stick it out. Everyone feels that way. You'll regret leaving stability. So instead of talking, we go quiet. We internalize it, and we carry all of it by ourselves. All of it. So, right now, currently in this moment, I am not rushing change. I'm taking my time. In a season of preparation, and that looks like paying attention to my energy and making sure that I'm getting clear about what drains me. Um, I'm building routines that support me. And throughout this process, I'm also documenting instead of reacting. And I'm learning how to trust myself again. And I'm coming to realize that that process doesn't need an audience. All it needs is for me to be honest. And I've learned a lot so far. I've learned a lot. Like, you can have a life and still leave it. You can be proud and still move on. And you don't need to justify your growth to anyone. Anyone. I think really one of the biggest things is outgrowing something doesn't erase its value. And it just means that the chapter is ending. And I realized endings don't have to be loud. They do not have to be loud to be real. If you're watching this video and quietly thinking, I feel this too, I want you to know you're not broken. You're not lazy. You're not ungrateful. You might just be growing. And growth often starts with discomfort. If this video resonates with you, I hope you'll stay. This channel is a place where I'm documenting this season honestly. I'm going to be having hair routines, reflections, and real life as it unfolds. And if you're navigating your own season of outgrowing, feel free to subscribe and walk alongside me here. And if you're comfortable, let me know in the comments, have you ever outgrown a life you worked really hard for? Thank you for listening. I'll see you on the next one.